A while ago, one of my friends, he's a producer as well, told me that he's refusing to use reverbs in his music. And the reason is that it's too complicated, it's too confusing, and it's way too complex to learn. He would rather not use reverbs in his music. And I agree. Reverb can be really confusing, it can be very complex. Unless you have a system for using reverb in your music. That's what we're going to do in this video. Let's go. Let's have a listen to these two instruments, the blue and the yellow. And as I play, I will turn the reverb on and off. So let's have a listen. So when the reverbs are off, everything sounds really flat. It sounds like it's occupying this exact same space. So the trick here is to put a big reverb on one of the sounds to push it a bit more to the back of the mix, and putting a slightly smaller reverb on the other sound to push it a bit more forward. Like that, you're creating space. So you can see that the blue instrument up here has a size of 49 compared to a size of 10 in the bottom one. It doesn't matter which reverb you are using, it matters the relationship between them. The second thing, that is the EQ, so where the reverb sits in the mix. So if you want a sound to appear further away from you, you can cut some of the high frequencies. So that's what I did with the blue instrument. On the yellow instrument, which I wanted to push a bit more to the front of the mix, I only cut a bit of the high frequencies, but I've cut more of the low frequencies. So let's have a listen again, and this time we will listen to just one of the instruments and I will just solo the different channels. So a really simple way to push the sounds a bit further away from each other and creating a bit more space between them. So as we said, it's only the relationship between the instruments and between the reverbs that matters here. And know which reverb you are using, and definitely don't be bothered about the numbers. So we actually have another sound here, and I will play them all together. This sound has even smaller reverb to really push it to the front of the mix, even more than the yellow instrument that we just heard before. So let me play just this sound, and I will turn the reverb on and off as I play. Actually quite a big difference, just giving it a bit of a halo. It's making it a bit more shiny and making it sound a bit more expensive. Okay, let's talk about the next trick. So I have here two percussion loops. One is a perk and one is a hat. So let's start with the perk. And here I use the reverb a bit more creatively by automating the size, and that will result in a pitch shifting effect. Let's minimize the channel by pressing H on the keyboard. And next, let's focus on the hi-hat. So this hi-hat loop has already natural reverb on it, but I just wanted to accentuate that. Another thing I had to make sure that I'm creating space between the perk and the hat. So let's play it and let's talk about what's going on there. First thing that I notice is that when the reverbs are off, the perk loop kind of disappears and the hi-hat takes over. But when I add the reverb on, suddenly it has its own space, and it's a lot more noticeable how you can hear both elements separately in the mix. So the size of both reverbs is pretty much similar. So the way I created a bit more separation between them is by using an EQ. First thing you can notice is that I have a boost around 3.6 kilohertz and I have a cut around 8.2 kilohertz. Let's hop to the hi-hat loop. So here you can see I'm cutting all the low frequencies below 4K. So essentially this reverb adds only sizzle in the high frequencies and this reverb is actually sitting below it. And like that you can create a bit more space for each element. So let's have a listen to this entire segment and I will turn the reverb on and off as I play it. Such a massive difference just using a reverb. Okay, let me show you another really cool trick. I have here a dry sound. So I added Valhalla Supermassive, which is a delay unit, which can act as a reverb when you start to introduce warp and density. So just play around with these parameters. And now this sounds like this. So I recorded that into audio and I wanted to introduce that sound. So I took this bit, I copied it, Control or Command C on your keyboard, and I pasted here, Control or Command V on your keyboard. Then I reversed it using R on my keyboard and I added an instance of hybrid reverb with a really big decay. So the trick here is automating the size starting on a low value going all the way up to a high value. So let's record that. Let's take this audio file, let's move it just before the sound and let's press R again to reverse. I will add a bit of a fade and let's play these two sounds together. Really beautiful way to introduce your sounds. So another really simple trick is taking a simple sawtooth wave with no effects, just a bit of saturation and a bit of automation on the filter. Let me turn the reverb off. And here we have a Valhalla Supermassive with 40% of warp. And let's see what this does. It just makes it sound so big. There are a few more tricks that I used for this production. One of them was creating a crash. So what I did is, I took this snare and added a Valhalla Supermassive with with a lot of feedback and a really big warp, and I recorded that into audio, and I did that several times, and I created two different versions of the same thing. One sits a bit lower than the other one, so actually I have here two crashes. So let's add the second one. This layer sits just a bit below, as you can see from the EQ, it doesn't have any high frequencies. This layer sits just on the top, so it doesn't have any low frequencies. And this is a really, really cool trick to create a bigger impact. Let's play it together. So I want to show you another trick, which I showed you already before in this tutorial. Let's go through it very quickly. I took the snare, reversed it, and I'm automating the size from a low value to a high value. I recorded that into audio, reversed it, and placed it just before the snare. So another trick that I like to use quite often is introducing my lead sound, but in a way where you don't really notice that they're appearing and then they're suddenly there. I'm doing that by automating the dry wet of the reverb from a high value to a low value, and by automating a filter from a low value 158 Hz to a high value of 12.5 Hz. So let's have a listen. And suddenly it's there. And so it makes more sense. Let's play the entire mix. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more tutorials like this. Thanks for watching. See you at the next one.